Are you ready to learn what red flags keep an eye out for when looking for love?
Then we got you covered. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the podcast where we unpack reality TV and call out the bullshit,
so that you show up confidently while dating and in relationships. Welcome to Ditch the Script. Oh my God.
I love it. Hey there.
Hello.
Hey there.
How are you this week?
Ho there. This week's good. I'm good this week.
Good.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know. I'm energized. I feel like, okay, so I told you a little bit about this earlier, but I forgot to set an alarm, so I slept in a lot more than I typically do. But I used to be really hard on myself when I would do shit like that. I'd be like, Jesus, Brianna, like, what are you good for? You low, some really mean shit that I truly like did not deserve. And now I reframe it as like all right, girl, you got some extra sleep. Good for you. That's going to make today probably a little bit better because you're a bit more rested than you would have been.
Yes.
That's my reframe.
I love that. That's a great reframe, 100%, because the self-loathing cycle that we all go through is not worth it at all.
Oh my God. You took the words out of my mouth. It's not worth it. It's so not worth it. The way that we like hold that tight grip onto our negative self-talk, I think that we really believe that it serves this big giant purpose to, I don't know, make us better. It drives this need to like be better than the like versions of ourselves that we believe that we are. But how often does it actually yield that result?
It doesn't. It doesn't. I love that you brought that up because I was tapping the other day around some like self-love body things going on. And one of the parts in my mantra was, if beating myself up worked, it would have worked by now. And it's so true. It's like, it doesn't work. Like, let's release that energy out of our bodies.
That's so deep. That's so deep. It's so true. If it worked, it would have worked by now.
It would have worked. Yeah. Yeah. And so it doesn't. So, and not to get my nerdy sciencey self automatically wants to say, and the science shows that compassionately loving ourselves into a new way of being is where it's at, because it actually does produce something. So throwing that out there for anyone else that may struggle with any of the things we're talking about, because that is applicable towards anything, whether it is a body image, self-love thing, or it's something like what you described this morning, being upset with yourself for not sticking to your normal routine or not accomplishing something the way that you would have wanted it to accomplish. If beating yourself up really worked, it would have worked by now.
Yeah, totally. Can I tell you something else that I've been doing lately that's feeling very in line with like positive self-talk? Actually, it's honestly more neutral self-talk than anything else.
Yeah, I want to know. Tell me.
Okay. So
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Right up close. I will have like mirror time at the end of the day. I'm exposing parts of myself, but I'm doing this because I want to share this with people. I have mirror time with myself at the end of the day where I just like, I find it very hard to lie to my own eyeballs.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like you are calculating science that supports what I'm saying right now. Is that true?
No, actually, this is I just love mirror work. It's a form of exercise that I give all my clients. And so I just love that you're talking about mirror work.
Are you telling me that I didn't make this up by myself?
No, you didn't. This is a thing.
Wow.
You didn't know it was a thing?
Not really.
Yes, Brie, it's a thing, and do it. Do it, bitch.
Okay, great.
It's so good.
Good. I'm really glad that because I find that this definitely works for me. So like whether it's practiced or not, it definitely works for me. But I'm grateful that this is an actual practice and something that people can look up and like get into.
Yes. Yes.
We're making a model out of this because I really do find it to be so effective, especially like with where we're at with all of the complexities and stressors that come with existing, even having a good life like you're not immune to the stressors. So how do we deal with them? How I deal with them is I will look at myself in the mirror and I will be like, you bitch, you're a class fucking act. Even as I curse, you are a class act. And I will just give myself like the praise. I'll sort of like reflect on what the day was like. And I don't have great days a lot of the time, but I will reflect on that not good day and be like, you tried your hardest. You did the best that you could with what you thought was available to you at the time. Here are the things that, like, if there had to be a takeaway, here's the takeaway. You go get them next time. You're a badass bitch. You got a fat ass. Go off. Do what you gotta do.
Yes.
And it really helps.
It's a thing. It's a total vibe. It's so cathartic. It's so good for you. It's an amazing tool to develop self-love and confidence and so many other things. I adore mirror work, and it's usually one of the things that I have to introduce like in the middle towards the end of my time with a client because it's so vulnerable. Like, I'll share a little bit of my first experience doing mirror work.
Please, need it.
So the perfectionist side of Alex I'm one of those people that like, I find out about a new modality and I like jump balls deep into it. I'm like, I am here. Like, I don't care. We're here for it. And so my first time doing mirror work, I got ass naked and and was like, I am here. And I bawled my eyes out. I just cried. I just sat there and I cried. And as you say, like, the mirror is it's difficult for you to lie to yourself. Is one point. The other thing is all of your insecurities will come bumbling up to the surface real quick, especially being in your birthday suit. Yeah. And so I just stood there and looked at my body and like I did, like as if I was trying on my birthday suit. I was like looking, how does my back look? How does my side look? And I just cried and I allowed the tears to come to sit with those emotions. Cause obviously we all know by now, in order to heal, you need to feel. Yeah. And then here's where the reframe thoughts started coming in for me. When I started doing this, it was very challenging for me to say the affirmations that I wanted to say, like, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I am enough. And so what I initially started out with was telling me all the things that everyone else tells me. Right. You're so genuine. My boyfriend tells me I'm beautiful and that, my boobs are great all the time. So like, I started there. And then I also really took the time to actually look into my eyes and notice like all of the layers of my eye colors. And I was like, wow, I do actually have pretty cool eyes. I have like this green and then this deep like seafoamy blue and then like the little bit of like goldish yellow, like, and just doing that, by the time I left the mirror, I had released so much that I felt lighter. And at the same time, I had this new appreciation for my eyeballs, which, although I've been looking at my reflection, especially as a dancer for years.
Oh my God. That's such a different experience.
Yeah. I had never taken the time to like look at me, like actually look at myself. So now my relationship with myself is way more where you are. Yeah. And I'm like, bitch, we're going to make 6 figures this year. We're going to do like, I'm just like throwing down, like, this is what's going to happen. And I'm like, you're doing great. Yeah. And I give myself high fives. Like, it's a total different vibe. But the first time I went to do it was gnarly.
Thanks for sharing that. That's so honest. And I really appreciate like your vulnerability to like bring that here. I think what it would be really helpful to reiterate for folks that would want to be curious about trying that, because let me tell you how free it is. It's
oh my God,
free. Like, you don't have to spend crazy amounts of money to do crazy shit to work on your self-improvement. No. If you want to start here and see where it takes you, like it's free 99. And if you're having trouble because you're not familiar with having any sort of positive narrative about yourself because you never practice it, the people that took care of you that never modeled that for you, they never gave that to you, like, and you wouldn't even know how to start being kind to yourself. trying to recall nice things that other people have said to you in the past that I'm certain you were very effective in like disregarding up until that point. But if you can remember and start with like one thing of like someone was like, you know, you're really smart, and to just be like, literally looking into your face and be like,
I am.
You're smart. Yeah, I'm smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big.
Huge. And allow that to actually penetrate your being. Like, I was having a conversation with a client yesterday about this, around a very similar topic. And I said that. I was like, I want you to think back to like one of your most recent times where someone complimented you about anything. And I want you to sit there and like put your hands on your heart and actually like receive it, like allow it into your soul, because I kind of, the term I use with a lot of clients is like the fuck off force field that we tend to like build around our bodies. What?
I love that. The fuck off force field. Yeah. It's a physical barrier that we are doing, and it's to protect ourselves. It's to remain guarded. And that it's a fuck off force field. I don't know what else I could ever call that.
Yeah.
Ever. Use
it. Everyone use it. 'Cause it's the second you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I very much like to sort of approach it in the sense that we are in control of our fuck off force fields, because there are times where it very much serves a purpose, especially when we're dealing with someone who is throwing unhealthy words our way or whatever. But then there's times where it's not serving us, which, going back to what I just said, when we struggle to receive compliments, it's because it's essentially those compliments are coming in and they're meeting our fuck off force field and being immediately repelled away instead of allowing it actually in. And that can happen for a bunch of different reasons. You know, like sometimes, if I'm being super transparent, when people used to say things like, you're so smart, or, you know, oh my gosh, thanks for figuring that out, or whatever, I very much would push it away because I was too scared to accept that about myself, in the fear that I would eventually let someone down and fall short. So I would push compliments away as a means to self-preserve, so that I didn't feel this pressure to always be perfect and make it happen.
Keep your expectations low.
And it's so sad. Yeah. And if I'm being really honest, I still struggle with that sometimes. And it's a labor of love. And especially with what I do right now, when clients are like I had a client fill out a form the other day, and they were like, a testimonial form, and they were like, thank you so much for saving me. And I was like, I didn't save you, you saved yourself, which is true. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm allowed to give myself a pat on the back and allow them to give me a pat on the back for helping them through that process.
Yes. You participated in that.
Yeah. And so I'm going to receive it. Receive it.
I do this trick with my clients. Not that I'm tricking them. I teach them this trick, but when some of my clients really struggle with like receiving that statement, that compliment, that true, what we are trying to acknowledge could be a true fact or quality, is I invite people to just, okay, so you're having trouble like taking it in. Why don't you imagine what it would feel like if you were to believe it were true? What's the version of you that's just imagining that that's true? What does that feel like? Yeah. And for some reason, even just pretending allows for a little bit of this closer access to feeling. Yeah. Or maybe it just like opens that door of the fuck you force field and like lets a little bit of it seep in, because honestly, at that point, what's the difference? Like trying it on, taking it in versus pretending to take it in, you're taking it in. Molecularly.
100%, because your brain doesn't know the difference between the truth and a lie. And that's where affirmations come in, is we want to say an affirmation that feels true to our body. There's tricks to do that. So for example, instead of saying like, I love myself, that's really hard for a lot of people to say. I'm learning to love myself feels better, and you're still, again, getting a similar effect. And so same principle when it comes to what you're saying, is like allowing it in even if you're pretending like, ooh, what would that feel like? It's still doing the work. It's still doing the work. It's still effective. So hell yeah.
You know, I got to just say, for two people who did not have an intro planned, we
That's what I killed it. I was thinking the same thing. Oh my God. You guys, just to backpedal, Brie and I got on today. We were like, what are we going to talk about? We have like nothing really super exciting happening other than like, you know, life in general.
Life stuff.
And then we pulled that out, just a genuine conversation.
We went into
and
a
it was
whole ass sermon. Yeah, I think it was really helpful. Whole ass sermon. Okay, before we get into
Maths.
our math segment of our show, our Married at First Sight recap. We're gonna sort of tease a couple things that we have coming up. The Ditch the Script,
yes,
like initiative is in full motion,
happening.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I just want to say, if you're not following us on TikTok yet, please do, because we're gonna start blowing up over there. That's what's happening. So. Yeah, be there, support us, like it, share it, all the good things. The other thing that's really dope that's coming up is a app that is in beta. It's called Alfie. It's a by women, for women app. So sorry, guys, you're going to have to sit this one out, but we still love you, okay? But for anyone who identifies as female, you are welcome to join Brie and I, as we have been invited to give a little Valentine's Day self-love talk. So we're going to be hosted on the app, and you are welcome to join. It is currently invite only because it is a beta being tested. So that means if you want to come hang out with Brie and I on February 10th on the app and hear what we have to say about self-love as we talk with the leaders of this app and the creators of this app, you hit us up. You know where to find us. And I'm just going to spout that off real quick.
Yeah.
Ditch the Script Pod on Instagram. Best place to message us, or via email, info@ditchthescriptpod.com. And Brie and myself will reply with a link for you to be invited to the app
to get access. Hang out. We're also likely going to touch a little bit on like the experience of being single on Valentine's Day, how to make that work for you, how to reframe that. Like, listen, everyone's allowed to feel how that holiday makes them feel, but we will not be promoting pity parties. We will only be working on
empowered, badass bitches.
That's right. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. We have something else that Alex and I are collaborating on in March. And
I'm like, what are you talking about?
There is a very exclusive Ditch the Script collaboration that will be happening in March. It will be happening in person in March, but unfortunately it's an Alex and Brie and Jordan invite only. And we will absolutely let you know more about it and keep you posted with what's going on.
And the pseudo parents will be there with cocktails waiting for us to shoot post, which means probably tequila, because pseudo dad's a tequila guy. So,
and so am I.
Right after. So, that's all we're going to say for now. I'm tripping. I can hardly contain my excitement, but you guys will be there via the gram to watch all of the fun things that are happening in March. So.
I'm very excited. Very, very, very excited.
Oh my God, me too.
Maths. Episode
Let me just regulate
3.
For a second. Hold on.
Yes, let's emotionally regulate.
Down.
We're in the process of calming our nervous system so that we can go back into our control zone.
Focus. Okay, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So I have structured our maths discussion per our outline. We're gonna go big. We're gonna go because I want to start this discussion in a love fest zone only.
Yeah.
So you know who we're gonna talk about? It's Stephen
Noy.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel so giddy. I am on cloud 9 for these two. They're so cute. I adored seeing Noi turned the corner in her wedding dress, and she said to herself, "Oh my God," and then laughed, and you could just see all of her worry like dissipated the second she was able to like connect with him and see him. And oh, that only was the top of the iceberg. It got so much better as the day went on, and I'm just so stoked. I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
You?
First thing that I noticed was that Noi was so open to what was happening. Her whole being was in this receptive state. She was mentally open to the possibilities that this was going to be something good. Physically, she's open to the possibility that this is someone that she's going to be attracted to. And her sights for the future were just open. And I could see that every time I took notice of like her facial expressions, her body language for pretty much all of the time that her and Steve spent together in the beginning of their wedding, like once they had a moment, just the two of them to talk, and when they returned to their wedding. I was so excited to see that. I think that what I also noticed was like, per our discussion from last week about Michael and
Jazmine.
Thank you.
I got you, girl. I got you.
Michael and Jazmine is like, I hate that I did that to them because they are still like such a favorite couple of mine, but Steve and Noi, they're just up there right now. Michael and Jazmine use humor in a really intentional, like break the tension way. And we sort of unpack that. And I saw a lot of that between Steve and Noi throughout their initial wedding moment, because it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And they were on the same page humor wise. And that was really cool. What did you notice?
And there was a lot of really good communication skills happening. And it made me, and this is what good communication does, is it makes you relax. And so seeing, like, for example, Steve asked for consent when the priest was like, kiss your bride. He asked her, would you like to? And she was like, okay. And that was so sweet to me. And then the other time where it really stood out was when Noi approached him with her cultural Laotian. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes, you did. I looked into this. Yeah, she's Laotian country. She's from her parents are from the country of Laos, and so she was wearing a sin. She invited him to wear what's called a sarong.
A sarong, yeah. So she presented it to him and asked, would you be open to wearing this? Beautiful way to position the question. She explained why it meant, and this is how the couples that I work with, I very much say, express why it matters to you over why they should be doing it, right? So she very much so she presented this to him, expressed the importance of it. I'm from Laos. This is, my family, Would you be open to wearing this? And he immediately was like, yes, of course. Because, one, Steve's just a cool cat. But two, he's into culturally diverse. Like, he loves that. He likes to travel and embrace that. So it was really cool that to see both of them having good communication skills right off the bat, and being able to, make requests or ask for consent in a way that's super emotionally mature and makes the other person feel safe.
Yeah. And totally appropriate for each moment that it was engaged in. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. They were adorable. The only thing that I would know about Steve's behavior is that he just seemed like a little like tense, a little guarded. Like I was sort of waiting for him to just sort of like shake his tail feather spiritually. Like I wanted him to just relax a little bit because I think the situation just made him nervous, which I totally understand.
Yeah, I also, a part of me, I thought it was interesting. Was it her brother that made the comment to Noi about like, you intimidate him, like you make him nervous because you're so beautiful. And I thought that was interesting that he said that. And then as I heard that and started kind of observing Steve a little bit more, I could see that a little bit where he was like, oh, whether or not it was purely just because she was so beautiful and it caught him off guard. But I think, hello, look at the situation they're in. It's totally understandable that he's nervous for whatever reason.
Right. It's like we have less information if it's about her being gorgeous and more just about like, it's a tense situation. Interesting that you brought up her brother though, because there was an interesting moment that Steve and Noy's brother had a moment where he was talking to him and basically giving him this like, well, he definitely was quizzing him a little bit, which I found sort of interesting, but he gave he gave him the tip that like Noy's gonna respond better if she's chased a little bit. So like if it seems like she's apprehensive about like how the rest of your night goes in your first night together, you need to set the tone and she'll respond. Like you set the pace and she'll, get there. She'll get there with you. And we see them engage in that a little bit. Like he, like when they're in the hotel room together, and obviously he's being very respectful, and like, this is the first time that they're spending alone time together since this wedding, since meeting. And he just sort of was like, get over here, And I think that was a moment where if it was left to his own devices, he probably would have been a little bit more like coy and not as pushy. But I think that he had this moment. I'm imagining he had this moment where he remembered like, you're going to have to do the legwork a little bit and she'll fall right in line with where she wants to be.
It's interesting because when I understood what he was trying to do. I didn't like the delivery of how he went about that. And I'm talking about Noy's brother in approaching Steve with this information. I didn't care for it. It felt a little menacing more than like, Steve, hot tip for you, because I know this about my sister, she really likes it when a guy does this. It felt way more like, sinister isn't the right word, but like it didn't feel good. It felt
a little calculated.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see, what, if that comes up later within their relationship, because a part of me feels that if that's something, we train people how to treat us. So if Noy truly is that girl, that's something that she really needs to kind of communicate to Steve, instead of the brother feeling the need to step in. So I'm going to keep an eye out to see how that impacts, if at all, moving forward or comes back.
Yeah, good call. Yeah. Okay, we'll earmark that.
Totes my goats.
Anything? Oh, you know what? We should talk about a little bit how Noy handled learning that Steve didn't have a job.
Yes. I mean, come on, girl. We called it. She immediately said what you and I said. She's like, he seems like the guy who's going to figure it out.
Right.
And what Jordan and I thought was really funny was the show trying real hard to create this like tension. And if you took away the intense music and the cuts and like the way they were angling it all,
totally,
she was fine. She was like, okay, all right, cool. That's cool. And she even thought it was so cool that he went on a 4-month road trip.
Right.
And let's also acknowledge you got to have the means to do that to begin with. So the dude's probably pretty well set.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I saw the similarities in how she responded to that based on how we responded to it, which is like, is this typically coded as like a red flag? Yes. Can we use context clues to assess that like this person is in control of their own life and is going to have it figured out? Also, yes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I think they're super cute. I also want to touch on something that I love about Noy. As she's getting ready for their wedding night, she says, I'm way more concerned with being comfortable than self-conscious tonight, so I'm going to put on my glasses. And she looks adorable with her glasses. She was naked faced with her glasses on. And I loved that about her because, and I even wrote here, I'm so proud, because hello, like, that's the way to operate. It's like we're women, and yes, we love to do, if you're that kind of girl who loves to put makeup on and go out into the world and do your hair and do full face, like, awesome, that's amazing. And you're allowed to come home and get comfortable, and your partner should accept that about you because you're a human.
Yeah.
And you don't need to look like a Stepford wife to go to bed. And I feel like a lot of women struggle with that. They're like, I need to have the cute nightie. I need to have like, let me pinch my cheeks so that I have rosy cheeks or whatever. And it's like, bro, no.
At some point, your partner's going to find out that you're a human being. So it might as well be out the gate.
Especially in their scenario, because they're already married. But I mean, I take that practice into real life because it's so true. Like, wouldn't you rather know if that's going to be an issue for them right off the bat, you know, sooner rather than later?
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
And I just want to say one thing. If you are that girl that loves to wear the nightie and have a little blush or rouge or whatever when you go to sleep, also acceptable. I'm just saying we need to take the expectation that that's the standard off.
Yeah.
That's all.
To do it to mask and make sure that people are only accepting us in whatever expectation we have for ourselves, because, you know, we don't like how we are naturally is where it becomes a little bit challenging, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I love them. I don't really want to stop talking about them because they're so great, but we have to. So moving on.
Okay. I want to just quick pan to Mark and Lindsay, our old friends.
Yep.
Our old friends.
Mark and Lindsay.
A big thing that came up for me with Lindsay, which has been apparent from the beginning, but I'm just continuing to gather information and objectively look at the data of her behavior. And I just noticed that, like, I wonder, I can't predict that this is happening, but I just wonder if she you know what? She has a big fuck off force field. She's a big one, like a thick one.
It's almost impenetrable.
It's
impenetrable.
That's really what I noticed. Like, her fuck you force field comes in the way of, let me be quick-witted, let me say exactly what's on my mind, let me say something that's like pretty out there. And I don't think that she's intentionally trying to be crass or like say provocative shit, although maybe that is a little bit of an effort, but it's all in like the cadence of it, which is not really allowing anyone else to get a word in edgewise. That I wonder, I even noticed, like, in her confessionals when she's just like, I really see a spark, like, I really feel like this is the guy and I feel good about this. I wonder if she's so uncomfortable with people seeing her be unsure about anything.
Oh, 100%. She's not being genuine because she doesn't feel comfortable being genuine with herself. So how can she be genuine with other people? She isn't the gal who's like, oh, I'm feeling something. Let me think about that. What emotion is that? Why am I feeling this way? She's not that girl. She doesn't even, if I'm being really honest, I don't even think she registers the thought of like, oh, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling fat. I'm feeling sad. Red leather, yellow leather. Okay, let's work on enunciating. Anyway, coming back to this, I truly feel Lindsay has uncomfortable emotions come up, and as you just said, it causes her to immediately externally react to whatever's happening as a means to not feel, as a means to keep on with the show, you know? And so when I see her confessionals where she's saying, like, Mark seems like a good guy, you know, he seems genuine, there's a spark, blah, blah, blah. I don't even feel she's truly being honest with herself about how she's actually feeling. I think she's just strapped into this roller coaster and is just going along for the ride. Yeah.
She would rather commit than look like she's on some sort of path to trouble or challenge or uncertainty. You know?
She's too scared to admit that she isn't certain because she bought into this. And again, out of fear of failure as well as probably all the other things that are lying under the surface. But yeah, and that for me is where I'm concerned about, you know, very much what we talked about on our first episode is she needs a lot of inner work, you know, to happen, to be able to show up in this relationship as much as she can, or as genuinely as she can. And my concern is she willing to do that on her own so that she can show up in the relationship in a more authentic, healthy way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you make of the conversation that Mark had with her dad and brother?
So red flaggy.
Tell me why.
So, I mean, I think it's great that her father and her brother know her well enough to be able to tell her now husband this information. But I think the fact that they enable it instead of doing something about it is detrimental to Lindsay, for Lindsay's sake. So Mark asks her father, just so that we can get some context here. Mark asks her father, is there anything I should know about Lindsay? And both her father and her brother mention, you don't want Lindsay to be your enemy.
Right.
You don't want her to be your enemy. And Mark was like, oh, okay. Yep. Yep. Like, okay, I can see that happening. And the other thing, like, meaning he's already picked up on like that kind of energy. Like, oh yeah, I could see her being scary.
But that's the thing that they're missing, is that's why he's asking. He's like, no, I would like a little bit of a handbook on how do I avoid that, because he's afraid of her. And
so her father says, just let her know you're in her corner. And this is so scary to me, because it's like, to what extent can that be taken to? If someone, if this is way more of a reflection of Lindsay, and what I'm not okay with in this conversation is it's very much showing how they've enabled that kind of behavior from her in the family in order to what seems like to keep her in the family. Like, that's, I don't know if I'm using my words well. Let me know if I didn't explain that, but I'm just curious to know what your interpretation was, because that was mine. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a good window into how challenging having a relationship of any kind with Lindsay can be. Like, she is sort of depicted as someone who typically is described as like, if she's in your corner, you got her in there for life. You can't get rid of her, actually, and instead it's like, how, like, what does a healthy, equitable relationship actually look like with someone like Lindsay, that can share space, that can like make compromise, that can listen, that can hear, that can also express in a non-combative, non-violent way.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
what I imagine where she gets stuck the most. And I imagine that if people come to her with like an invitation to like get vulnerable for a moment so that they both can learn, they both can grow, she gets stuck in this defensive mode of that's where she's sort of gotten herself now, which is she has had to fight a lot, build that force field real wide, really deep, so that she can protect herself. Mark sort of called it, where he's like, yeah, I can tell you've been through a lot. Like, what happened? How did you get here? And that was hard to see and to listen, because he's really right on target. And
yeah, he's pinned her. He is pinned her so good. He knows her.
And he's trying his like damnedest to like get there. Although it was sort of like, I understood where he was coming from, but as like, it's like a feminist, it was hard to hear him be like, ready to see what Lindsay's like when the lights go down. And I know that he did not mean that in a sexual way. It was more of like, what happens when she slows down? What happens when she's not in front of all of these people?
Out. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and I'm concerned. We are going to see. We've already, in the teaser at the end of the episode, we saw a little bit of stuff coming up for us to unpack as far as them, navigating life together. But, my heart breaks for her. Like, really, my heart breaks for her, and my heart breaks for that family, because if they had not enabled her behavior and we don't really know what that looks like yet, but if they had not taken this mindset of don't let Lindsay be your enemy, which leads me to believe there's a decent amount of coddling, and like they enable it by they enable it by not rocking the boat, which is not a way to ever establish a healthy relationship. If they hadn't done that, there would have been growth. She would have had to grow. She would have had to confront her stuff. Or, I mean, the honest truth is the other option would be to like completely separate from the family, which clearly her father and her brother don't want to happen. So that's why they're enabling it, is they want to be able to love on her. But truly, my heart breaks for her. My heart really hurts for her, because this is all just a show of some deep unresolved wounds that cause her to have these unhealthy social behaviors as a means of survival.
Yeah,
that's what we're witnessing here. We are witnessing her trying to survive in this dynamic, and this is the only way she knows how to function. And so it really is sad, you know, and so I truly hope that those counselors were able to get in there and do something. We're going to see. But yeah, I mean, this is why it's so important to deal with your shit before you say I do.
Before you try to get married. No, really. Because like, we've talked about this in the past about how like, you don't have to be perfect getting into your relationship.
No.
And you definitely don't need to be perfect before you get into your marriage. But you do probably want to dip your toe into therapy. Just like a little.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Because you are taking someone with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Contractually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm concerned. That teaser was upsetting to me for a lot of reasons, and I won't elaborate on it just yet. But I am concerned. Okay. Let's next it.
Katina and Alanjuan.
You know, this was actually, this was a good first. Well, okay. I'll be honest, based on what I was just sharing, like the teasers of Katina and Alanjuan do not look good. Whatever terrifying. Drama they are teasing out is low-key had me triggered.
Misogynistic AF.
Really bad. However, this episode, this light of them was actually a good light for the two of them, because we see them connect a little bit more than they had. Obviously, there's some moments here I'm going to point out that were not great, but it was a lot better than what we got in the second episode when they first meet and Katina is overwhelmed with Olajuwon's presence. We see them connect. We see them sort of lean into each other a little bit more, get a little bit more comfortable. And you can tell that Katina is starting to imagine what life looks like with Olajuwon as her partner. And you can see her warming up to that. My biggest challenging moment was the conversation that Olajuwon was having with Katina's mother. One, he fucked up her name. He called her Katrina. And then two, like the way that they edited it and like cut it and arranged it on the screen for us was like
the Brady Bunch tiles.
Yes. They created this Brady Bunch tiles of Olajuwon's long-winded speech to Katina's mom. And we sort of talked about this in this like the stress response. Like Katina shuts down, Olajuwon goes into what you called fawning, which is just putting all of one's energy on display in one long breath, not coming up for air. And that's what he did. Sometimes I do that too, but Olajuwon it could be a meme, that moment.
It could be a what? Sorry, you broke up.
No, it's okay. A meme.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Where are you at with these two?
I agree with obviously what you've already stated. I want to add Katina saying she feels like she's in the movies. That to me is like a red flag in the sense that she's focusing on what the movies portray as romantic love and the spark and all of that, which if you've been listening to our show for a while, you know that is not always a good thing. And in this case, I really feel like it's not. I think she even mentions like she's super attracted to him. And as we see them going into the evening, she is very open to progressing the relationship. If you catch my drift, wink, wink.
Very.
Yeah.
On her terms, though. She was like, it's not going to happen tonight.
Yeah.
But like, she's looking forward to it.
Yeah, but and I am not judging her for wanting that to happen. What I'm concerned about is equating the exciting physical feelings you're feeling to mean that this is it. Like, this truly is going to be the one, or like also that this is going to be the relationship that works out forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you're saying. Like, sometimes our physical and sexual interest in someone can get confused with, this is going to be a successful romantic relationship.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you so much for making it sound better and more understandable.
No, you set it up.
What I do like about what we saw in their little convo last night is how they are, it seems to be on the same page around traveling before they have children. And then they talk about the cooking thing. And, you know, he says he, quote, of course, can cook. Part of me is like, I don't fully trust that. I'm not sure why. And I'm not going to question why, because I feel like it's based off of what I've seen of him so far. Yeah. But Katina's like, no, I can't really cook. And so what I thought was a green flag, which feels a little awkward to hand out now that I've seen the teaser at the end of the video. But if we're going to compartmentalize these moments, I think it's a great thing that Alanjuan was like, we're going to figure out how to cook because we got to survive. And so I felt like, again, similar to what I said last week when he was like, we'll figure it out together. I feel like he's saying that again. I just hope that he truly means that when he says, we will learn how to cook, like we will figure it out.
Yeah.
Because that is the mentality. Exactly. That is the mentality that is required for a long-term successful relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, sheesh.
Yeah, I put a facepalm emoji. About this, I said Alanjuan's Brady Bunch tiles of him talking to her mom, and then he calls her Katrina, not Katina, facepalm.
Facepalm. Big facepalm.
Oh, the other thing that I thought was a super red flag, now that I scroll down to this note, this is huge. His friend, so he has a couple friends come over to talk to Katina, and they're talking to him about Alanjuan and like, you know, what she should know about him. And what I think was really fascinating about that conversation was his friends, and I quote, said to her, Alanjuan's the kind of guy to mold the woman to be what he wants. And that's not okay.
Ooh. There's so many problems with that statement.
I know, and it's coming from his friends who have witnessed him, who have just, like, let me just leave it at that, who have witnessed Alanjuan, a.k.a. Isaac. Yeah. And so I wrote that down and was really concerned about having that. Like, if I was Katina, I would have been like, ooh, that's scary. But she, in the moment, I don't think she fully heard and understood what was being said. And I think this is where learning how to actively listen is so huge, because something like that can be said, and if your ears aren't perking up, you're going to miss it, you know? Yeah. So I'm a little concerned about that. And at the same time, hearing that doesn't surprise me because of what we've heard Alanjuan say about his expectations of a wife. So we're going to see. I'm a little scared. I'm not going to lie. I'm straight up a little scared.
I'm really scared for the two of them. I don't see how this is going to work. I think generally overall, Alanjuan does not even begin to know what is required of him to have like a successful relationship. And he's just like out the gate in a marriage now. And I find that to be honestly really irresponsible.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I was going to say concerning, but you're absolutely right. Irresponsible is the way to put it, because that's just what it is. It's
For
not
him,
okay.
but can I say, like, honestly, more for the people who put him on the show? Because
I know.
my logic here is that he has no idea. He's an ignorant idiot when it comes to what it requires of him to be ready for something like this. He truly has no idea. So I honestly don't even know how I would put that expectation on him.
Right.
So the producers, the experts, whoever put him through, outside of knowing that this was going to create some good ass television. I know that we talked about the concern here about that maybe being a possibility, but dude,
so true.
Someone's to blame.
Yeah, it's a disservice, because here's the other thing. And this is why last week, when I was like, a part of me wonders if they pick people who they know aren't ready on purpose for it. It makes me sad, because what will happen if this gets bad enough, and already from what we've seen with the teaser of Alanjuan and Katina moving forward, is some of the things that are being said or done can be potentially traumatizing to a person. And so it really bothers me that we are going to prioritize TV ratings and drama, and which in the end is money, over a person's heart and
well-being,
potentially scarring this person and putting them into therapy, like, because of what they've experienced on this show. So I agree. Like, we're coming for you. Just kidding. Whoever
I have
it is, we are.
Ditch the script has words. We have words.
We
for
have
you.
Words.
But
sidebar. It's not cool.
Did you know that? We know that I haven't watched the show before. I didn't know that there was a previously employed sex therapist on the show that was coaching whatever couples that were on the season at the time, and is now romantically involved with one of the male partners of the couples.
Oh, I didn't know that either. You're going to have to send me that article. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Concerning. Okay. So do you have anything else on them, or can we,
no.
Should we move on? Okay.
We're moving on to Jazmine and Michael. We're going to raise the vibe, because this is another cute one.
Yeah, they are cute. They're so cute. I have minimal notes, because we're just continuing to see them. You know what? They're slow burning, and it is gorgeous to watch. They are the slow burn example. While they are in this situation where they are getting married and then they're getting to know each other, which feels a little bit backwards in like our modern American culture, they are dating intentionally in the ways in which I would love to see more of us do.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
100%. And the other thing I want to highlight is I adore that Michael celebrates their differences. And I am curious to see if he sticks with it, because he said that in one of his confessionals, how she's different, and I'm excited to like go into her world and explore that. And like, that's what's beautiful about a relationship, is being open to influence from your partner and being able to like have things you do together, yes, but also remain, and maintain your sense of self and your own hobbies and interests and things like that. So I loved the way that he phrased it, and I loved how he celebrates the things that she's into that he's not necessarily in. He's affirming them, like, that's cool, whatever. And I loved that. And they're super cute. They seem relatively comfortable with each other in the way that they've met. Like, they're open to kissing each other when, the clinking glass thing that everyone does at weddings happens. And,
right.
It's super sweet. And then his sisters come over to talk to her and give her their mom's remembrance pin to like welcome her into the family. And it was really, really sweet. I only have one concern that popped up between them, and it actually was when Michael was talking with her parents, and her father says to Michael, sometimes don't answer. It's a trick question. And then her mom chimed in and was like, he's speaking from his own personal experience. But it did get a little heated there. And I'm curious if that stood out to you and what you made of it.
Yeah, it stood out to me because I think that in my assessment of that moment was that Michael's working really hard to open himself with the challenge that he understands he faces, which is being comfortable, being vulnerable, because he knows that that's necessary. And I think that Jazmina's dad saying, you know, but also sometimes it's a trick question, so don't always answer. I think it was just confusing to him. Like, I think that he was just sort of like, what am I supposed to I'm just trying to work on being vulnerable. You're telling me that there's sometimes I got to answer and sometimes I got to not answer. I don't know how to do that. So I could see him just sort of doing like mental gymnastics, trying to figure out like, what does that mean? I thought that I just needed to work on this thing. But luckily mom sort of came through and she reassured. She was like, just be honest. Just let her know where you're at. Like, tell her how you're feeling. She really needs that. That's really going to work for her. And he seemed a bit more affirmed in that moment. What was your takeaway?
Yeah. I just thought that, well, I mean, I don't think it's good advice to give, first of all, because the truth is that this is two sides. One, ladies, you know, there's a stereotype that goes around that that women in general ask questions like, you know, the age-old one is like, does this make me look fat? And that's like the stereotype of like, I can't answer that question. You don't really want the answer to it.
Right.
Well, okay. So I do want to speak to us ladies and say, like, at no point should we ever be doing that to our partner maliciously, like asking a question that is a trick question where we are anticipating only one answer, and if they don't answer that way, then we're going to retaliate in some way, shape, or form, or whatever.
That is a course correction we need to make.
We need to make that, because the reason it's a stereotype is the sad truth is that it happens, you know, so we need to fix it. The other thing is, you know, men should feel safe to give us their honest and to be honest and to be genuine. And for that to happen is both parties need to create a safe space of open communication. And so I really wasn't stoked that was the first thing he said. And I agree with her mom. Like, he's speaking from his personal experience. Clearly that either has happened to him a lot, or there's some kind of personal vendetta, maybe subliminal messaging to mom or whatever. But I don't even think they're still together.
No, they're not.
Are they still together?
No, they broke up, and that's sort of what I was applying that lens while watching that moment. Exactly.
It's like, the other thing is let's be mindful of who we ask for advice. You know, I used to, and I'll use myself as a personal example. I used to go to one parent who really seeking their advice around relationships and seeking approval when this parent's been divorced 4 times and is miserable in their lives. So it's like, let's be really, really mindful about going to someone who either has the end result that we want or has had it and is happy, but like, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, just be mindful, because going to someone who has a lot of wounds or is not in a healthy place, that is going to pervert the answer that they give you when you're seeking advice, you know? So I just wanted to throw that out there in regards to that.
I do think mom was a safe person to chat about as far as like insight to Jazmina. But the dynamic of mom and dad together is tough.
Agreed.
I almost thought I saw them sort of working out their own shit, or rather not working it out.
Exactly.
Okay. Our big finish with this. You know who it's going to be. You know it.
Girl, I am appalled.
Chris and Alyssa I'm
appalled.
A hot ass mess.
No, can we rephrase that? Alyssa's a hot ass mess. Chris is fine.
Chris is trying. Chris is doing his hardest. He's trying his best.
I'm angry. If I'm being, I'm upset. I'm upset because I'm angry that if you watch this episode and you're watching with us, you see that she says some very hurtful things and then continues to go on the honeymoon, which really makes my blood boil.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. I want to come back to that because
yes,
I agree with you, but I want to understand more about why. So what's interesting about Chris and Alyssa's like union and what becomes their wedding and the rest of what we see is their connection together and the rest of the wedding party is that you can tell pretty clearly that Chris has not met Alyssa's expectations of whatever fantasy world she continues to concoct in her life as she takes on dating. She said it herself when she was like, no one that she's ever dated has ever been what she's looking for. And that statement really stood out to me because my immediate question and concern was like, oh, so you've nitpicked everyone out of a possibility because it's not that things just didn't work out with even some people that you did choose, that you did like. No one. You've never chosen anyone that's been what you're looking for. That tells me that what you're looking for is not sustainable and maybe doesn't even exist.
Yeah. So clearly, just like knowing that about her and how fixated she gets on like, this is a sign especially appearance, but she's an avoidant. She'll find anything. And we see very much what she starts to find because she can't just say, I'm not attracted to you. She feels too shallow admitting that. So she starts to kind of build a list of things as the evening goes on. What I thought was really fascinating is before she even met Chris, before she even went down the aisle, she was with her girls. She was saying things like, I hope he's hot. I'm going to hope this is going to work, but I'm also going to be realistic. And that statement to me, when she's getting her makeup done, I already felt like she had one foot out the door. Like she wasn't super committed to seeing this through and trying it out. And she says multiple times, like, physical appearance and personality is huge for me. I really need to be attracted to the person. So it's like, I understand that you're looking for, people's sexiest man alive or whatever. But again, if you're going to be that picky, you don't marry a blind date. You don't marry a blind date.
Totally, dude. I found everything about how she went into this to be so inappropriate for what this show was going to provide to her. She's so fixated on looks. I am not coming for people who are saying that looks are important. Looks are important. Let me rephrase that. Being physically attracted to your partner is important. We don't always recognize a physical attraction right off the bat. Sometimes you have to just get to know someone and lean into what could be a connection that develops, and your physical attraction may well follow. And that is so not her approach. Her approach to this wedding, this full-on marriage is like a really problematic example of how I see people like approach dating in general, which is you need to look like this, you need to be like this, you need to have this education, you need to want these things, you want the laundry list of shit that needs to include for you to basically not feel bad about being like, no, that doesn't work for me. That wasn't going to work for me. It's very avoidant, as you said. Very. So here's another thing that I thought was fascinating was Chris sends her this card that's super sweet and said how he's happy she trusted her inner confidence to do something as wild as this. And then her remark is, and again, I quote, I'll go and see him first and then make my decision. Not I'll go and get to know him and see where this goes. It's I want to go see him and then I'm going to make my decision. And so what do we see? She literally turns the corner, sees him, and starts crying. Yeah.
Like literally gets emotional, and it's not a happy emotional like Noi or Jazmina. It wasn't a release. It was dread. It was like, ha.
Yeah.
And you could see it all over her face. She knows that
she's about to make a mistake, something that she's not comfortable with.
Yeah. And so it frustrates me because, like, again, if this is where I'm like, well, then why go through with it? Why not at the altar be like, I'm sorry, like this, I'm just not attracted to you. This isn't going to go anywhere. And, or at least make it through the ceremony, make it through the reception. And then at the end of the night, just be straight up like, look, it's been nice to meet you, but this isn't, So I wonder if they're contracted in to like do the full experience before they're allowed to even make that call. Like they have to spend time together. I do wonder.
That's a good point. It's a good point because for methinks that is a contractual agreement, because the whole point, I think, of the show is that you get to the end and then they're like, do you want to stay married or do you want to get a divorce?
Yeah, that definitely happens. I just wonder if like she was out of it, like over it then, why wouldn't they just let her leave? Because now it's just going to be hell on earth.
I don't even know if she would have taken that option. Like,
done it.
I really think that the way that we saw her lean into every possible opportunity to excuse her disinterest suggests to me that this is something that she typically does. But she did just marry him. Okay, my first sign of trouble outside of like that turnaround corner moment that you just described is when she's saying her vows that she's obviously written pre-seeing what he looks like. She can't look him in the eyes when she's saying any of the intimate and direct, like vulnerable pieces about what their connection is going to be like or how she's excited about this being him. The only time that she was able to sustain eye contact was when she mentioned some quip about animals, some quip about dogs.
Yeah. She was saying how she loves dogs, and he was stoked that she loved dogs. Like he did this whole like, oh yes. Right. And so, it's the other thing that stood out to me was the excessive blinking. I meant to look that up this morning actually to learn more about that.
Excessive blinking.
She had excessive. Let me scroll back up to my notes. Excessive blinking while he was saying his vows to her. It was almost like, she couldn't, as you said, she couldn't look him in the eye. So I'm wondering if her excessive blinking, because it was non-stop, like the whole time. And for those of you who don't watch our YouTube channel, I just tried to demonstrate it. But I'm wondering if that was her subconscious way of avoiding eye contact, was constantly blinking her eyes and not allowing for this to happen, like a deep look into his eyes while he's expressing all of these things that he hopes for their marriage, So it was very apparent that the girl was uncomfortable. She was not wanting to be there.
She didn't want to be there. And it's interesting because they call out in the, this is what Alyssa's family wants you to know about her. They call out the fact that she wears her emotions on her sleeve and that you can see everything on her face. And honey, face.
We saw it.
We saw everything that was on that face. And I think that if he wasn't trying to be as hopeful if Chris wasn't trying to be as hopeful as he was and really like putting everything into the possibilities of this experience, he would have seen that as well and saw it earlier. Yeah. But he was just treading too lightly. And I think that he learned quickly early on that she was also someone to fear a little bit.
So let's talk about this, because Chris makes this statement before he, is at the wedding, waiting for her at the end of the aisle. He makes a comment where the type of career he has is one where there's these large transactions happening. And so he needs to remain calm and steady for the client as they make these large purchases or investments or whatever. Yeah. And he makes a vow he's going to do that for his wife. And you see him stick to that vow the entire night, no matter how she got mean. That girl got mean. It wasn't even her like feeling shame around like, oh no, I'm really sad because like I wanted this to work and he's not my type. And like, okay, maybe I can just try and get to know him as a person, but I feel awkward. It wasn't that. She turned on her Regina George. It got nasty, at least for me. For me, I was not about it, especially when they were taking photos. And the photographer was like, okay, like, can you put your head on his chest? And she was like, nope, I don't do that. I'm not a mushy person. I wouldn't do that anyway. Guaranteed, if this guy looked like, you know, freaking Channing Tatum, she would be like on top of him. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like, I could see that.
That's so true. That's so true.
And the issue with that is, okay, fine, if you're not a mushy girl, because like I say that about me, you know, physical touch is something I've had to learn to do because it was such a foreign concept to me, you know, whatever, long story. My point is this, I love cuddling my boyfriend. It's just, I need to learn how to initiate that, right? Yeah. So that he feels loved, because that's his love language. So even if you're a girl who isn't quote unquote mushy, if you truly care about someone, two things will happen. One, you'll make the effort, or two, you'll communicate it in a caring way. At least you'll be like, actually, I'm not the kind of girl who is super mushy, especially since I just met you. I'm just not totally comfortable yet. Is it okay if we just, you know, take pictures this way? And she wasn't like that. She literally told the photographer, she was like, don't tell me to do that. Don't tell me to kiss him either. And it was like, whoa, like, major fuck off force field energy. Major
fuck off force field. We see that again when same thing, wedding reception is happening, forks and glasses are clinking, people are trying to
oh my god, so awkward.
They're trying to get them to kiss, and she goes, I don't succumb to peer pressure.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, totally.
He was just trying to match her energy and like fall in line with where she was, because he was really worried about making her uncomfortable, because clearly she was someone who was putting off the energy that the very littlest and smallest thing was going to make her uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally. And again, he's sticking to that. I'm going to be strong for her. So he's not questioning, he's not asking like, hey, I'm getting the vibe that you're not into this, and like, if that's the truth, like, we should talk about it, you know? There's none of that happening. He's just trying to like remain strong for her. And what killed me was when in his confessional he's like, I don't see any red flags so far. I was like, how can you not?
But you know what, in that moment he's seeing, she's good on paper, she looks good,
she's hot,
and she's here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. He's not considering the fact that like, he doesn't want to see big major red flags with this person that he just agreed to marry off
exactly.
chance. So
he's just like, I'm going to ignore them all.
Yeah. He's ignoring them. He's just sticking to the fact that she's like hot here and like in cowboy boots. Okay.
Yeah.
So then the moment that seals the final nail.
Wait.
What?
I'm sorry. I just want to add one more nasty moment to the list out of this couple. Sorry. I just have to.
Let's get into it.
The cake cutting. They cut the cake, and you know, the tradition is you feed your spouse the first bite. They're standing there feeding themselves next to each other, and everyone's watching and taking pictures, and she's like, we're civilized people. And it's just like, oh my God, it was killing me. Okay.
I don't know why she went on this show, Alex. Why'd she go on this show?
Girl, I don't know either. It's like, what were you thinking was going to happen? That, you know, your magic famous mystery man was just going to fall out of the sky and be everything you wanted him to be, like that?
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
My assumption is that Alyssa has walked around her dating world as like, everyone else is the problem. No one's on my level.
Yeah. And we kind of see her mom say that to him when she, you know, Alyssa's mom is talking to Chris, and she very much says, I didn't know if she would ever get married. Yeah. So very much a pattern that she, and you know what that is? A fear of intimacy, a fear of being vulnerable, a fear of being hurt. And so she's just like, again, enlarged her fuck off force field. Yeah, she repels everything.
She's a big proponent, a good example of someone who fears being left, so she leaves as early as she can.
Right. Right. She wants to be the lever, not the
she doesn't want to be left. Okay.
Yeah.
So the final nail in her Chris coffin is when she's talking to his friends, and they, with a poor choice of words, they're trying to explain that, like, Chris has a tendency to mansplain. And if anyone doesn't know what mansplaining is, it's basically like someone explaining something to you that you clearly know what the fuck you know how to do. Like, and so they were like, listen, if he ever tries to explain something to you and it comes off like it's condescending, please know that they're sort of trying to say, like, that's his love language. Like, he loves to share knowledge. He's a natural teacher. So he's probably going to do that because he's excited by the idea of teaching you something. Is that
right?
Mansplaining? Yes. But did she heard that and she grabbed onto it. And I think internally she was like, here's something I can sink my teeth into. And now I can make all of my concerns legitimate. She was like, I don't like that. I don't like someone that's going to be condescending. I wouldn't know how anyone would ever put up with that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. She even said, I don't know how I would tolerate that behavior. Yeah. And then, and it spirals into her pulling the producers or whoever that was in that room. Yeah. And going off on, and I didn't see this. Did you see the comment she alluded to? When she's talking to the producer, the comment was, sorry, I was trying to save it for the audience, but I'll tell you right now. Yeah. She makes this comment to the producers that Chris had said to Alyssa, or to a group of people, but Alyssa was there, that he was just her side piece or something like that.
Yeah. I never caught that.
Me neither. And so she's like, that was so condescending. And I'm like, even if that was what he said, and I'm not gonna lie, a part of me feels like she's making it up to have a scapegoat in some way, shape, or form, you know? Because we didn't see it, and I feel like if that was the way we were gonna, if that truly was who if that truly was who Chris is, the show would have been happily positioning him that way. Look at the way they're positioning Alanjuan, right? So,
right. Or even just like aired it. They would have aired it.
Right. And so she's telling the producers, like, you know, that's not okay. I don't do well with people like that. And it seems like he can hear everything that's being said because he's on the other side of the door sitting outside. And the producer is like, well, you need to go tell him because he doesn't have a clue of what's going on right now.
He has no idea and that she's literally so upset.
They shove her out the door right in front of him. And she's like, she has to awkwardly put her tail between her legs and sit down and now try and communicate with him, which she doesn't do. It's like...
Right.
Hot mess express. She basically makes an excuse and is like, let's go to sleep and tomorrow's a new day. And it's like, okay, you didn't share anything about, you made this comment earlier, it felt condescending, it's a concern of mine, like nothing.
Totally. I noticed that same thing. She didn't actually say anything that would have clarified what she was so upset about. She just like staked her claim. But Chris did something that I found only gave her permission to do that without any sort of explanation. Enabled it. Yeah, he enabled it because he apologized without knowing anything about what he needed to be sorry for. He was just like, he was like, you know, I guess I'm really sorry for whatever it is that I did. We got to stop doing that. If we want to preserve the impact of an apology and I'm sorry moment, we need to only apologize for the things that we need to be sorry for. We should not be apologizing to tell someone just to make them feel better because clearly they're in distress. What I would have loved to see Chris do in this moment to be like, what happened?
Yeah, can you tell me what I did?
Yeah. Like, put her in the awkward position of her needing to voice the things that she is ashamed about.
Yeah.
Or the things that she's upset by. Let me honor where she's at. Put her in the position where she needs to voice what she's upset about, and maybe have to reconcile with the fact that she just needs to name that she's not attracted to him and she's bothered by his teeth, and just get it the fuck over with. And
yeah.
and then he can decide if he needs to issue an apology or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause instead it's like, I'm sorry for what you did. What can I do to make it better? She was like, I just think that we need to go to sleep. La, 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 la.
Yeah. Or if you really feel called to apologize, I'm sorry that you're going through it right now. You know, like, I feel for you.
Yep.
And that's it though. Like, he can have compassion for her and like feel bad that she's dealing with that, but it's not his responsibility. And I love what you say, like, that clarifying questions are a beautiful communication skill to have because of exactly what you said. If you are just constantly apologizing for existing, which is something I used to like live in that mode of like, I'm sorry
Ditto.
for everything.
Ditto.
Yeah. And it's like, you are, in the long run, you're actually watering down all of your apologies because you're doing it so often. And not only that, it's not a healthy way to function or communicate in a relationship. So yes, let's drop the I'm sorry and get really clear on what we are responsible for and need to apologize for.
Because you are not
huge.
You do not need to be sorry about the structure of your teeth.
Anything, Chris.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Boo.
So, I'm tripping. And I put a note in here because I got really sad because thinking back to our first episode when we first saw her, I made the assumption watching her interact with everyone, like, okay, she's just kicking back. Like, she doesn't need to be the center of attention. And now I'm like, okay, I read that as kicking back. Now I'm wondering if it was judgment. I can't associate with those people. I'm going to hang out over here.
I think it's judgment. I think she has impossible standards for everyone around her, especially her partners.
Yeah.
And I wonder if she's ever going to be happy until she learns how to let go of that.
For real, because she's not, and it's really sad, and she's signing up for a really sad existence if she continues the way that she's going on about it right now.
Yeah,
like, that poor girl is not creating a life to thrive in. Yeah. Yeah, it's really bad. So, the end.
The end. We are excited. We are looking forward to our
seeing how it all unfolds.
Yeah, literally. I am excited to see what happens on the honeymoon, and just for everyone involved, I'm excited to see. I love when people actually start getting to know each other. My favorite thing about
me too.
This is actually like an issue that I have when it comes to dating. A big part of the reason why I have trouble dating is because I hate the begin. I love the feelings that can come with the beginning part,
right?
But my favorite thing about connecting with people is like being able to just like be ourselves and just like get to know each other and get comfy.
Yes.
I love that so much. And so I love seeing that in other people. I love when people like drop the bullshit and just like, this is me.
Yeah. It is. It's so fun. It's so comforting. It's so wholesome. It feels so good.
So good.
So I'm with you. I'm excited. Okay. Red flag and green flag, baby.
Okay. What are yours? What's yours? You start.
My red flag is Alyssa.
In general.
All right, let me be, I'm being funny, but let me be more specific. Alyssa's inability to communicate what she's actually experiencing and feeling and thinking.
Yeah.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. If you want someone to meet whatever impossible standards you have, you're going to have to let them know how high they need to jump.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
What about you? What's your red flag?
Oh, you know it's in our girl, Alyssa. You know it is. She's a walking red flag in this episode. My red flag in 100%. Alyssa specifically is, and I think that this is a red flag that we need to be aware of in ourselves as we date or navigate any sort of dating sphere, is if you are walking around the world or you date someone that it's like, I've just never met someone that that does it for me, that'll tell you everything that you need to know about their ability to actually meet anyone where they're at.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Don't date the person that says no one's ever been on my level. Well, honey, good luck looking, because no one will ever be on your perceived level.
Yeah. Where is that level?
Where's the level?
Okay. Green flag.
Okay. Mine is, oh, sorry. What's yours?
No, you go. What's your green flag?
Mine's, noise openness, like just opening her entire heart, body, mind up, open to the possibility of what her relationship with Steve could be like. I think it was very receptive, and that's a really good place to start. Even if you get hurt, it's a good place to start.
I completely agree. I think my green flag is the communication of Noi and Steve. So using really good verbiage as far as asking for consent before kissing her, as well as her approaching him and making a really nicely worded request on what she would like for him to do for the wedding reception and the importance of that to her. Yeah. Those are my green flags. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank God we have those, because this episode was a mess.
It was a mess. And now we have a listener cue. Woo-hoo. Someone wrote in.
They did. Okay, I'm going to read it. Hi, Brianna and Alex. Okay. I'm enjoying your podcast. I'm in a healthy and happy relationship and worked really hard to get here in my life. I'm writing because I see my friend be in and stay in for too long unhealthy relationships that affect her and everyone around her. I want to be supportive and a compassionate friend, but I find that I have low patience for anything related to her romantic relationships, because I find it exhausting to be supporting the ups and downs of her unhealthy relationships. I know her other friends feel similarly because I've talked about this with them. I think she has an emotional addiction to these roller coaster relationships. I have been transparent to her about what I think about the men she gets involved in and how I feel. Help, any advice? Ooh.
Yeah. I love this.
I think it's a great question, because I really think that a lot of us are in this position at times.
Totally.
Especially if you're like a supportive, opening ear type of person. Like, people are going to want to come to you about their relationship woes. And anyway, okay, what would you say?
Yeah. I would say the fact that you have already expressed your feelings and your concerns and she hasn't been receptive to it, it's like you've put the card out there on the table, which is your job as a good friend, is like, hey, look, this is what I'm seeing and I care about you and your well-being. And if they aren't going to heed your advice or have a true listening ear, then at this point you need to set the boundary. Like, look, I understand that you're going through a hard time, but when we have these conversations regularly, it really, can get in the way of me just connecting with you, my friend, the person who I really adore. So are we able to, moving forward, keep these conversations about this unhealthy boyfriend or partner or whatever out of our friendship? Yeah. And hopefully she'll respect that. And if not, you can take the time to reiterate again. Look, I am not going to support my friend essentially poisoning themselves by this person who's not treating them well. And so I love you and I am here for you. If you need me to support you as you separate from them or whatever, but in the meantime, it's too draining for me to constantly have to try and talk you off of a ledge because you keep choosing to put yourself in this position. So that was like really rough verbiage, like throwing verbiage out there. So feel free to make it your own, but being really clear on how much you care about them. And that's why this is not or productive for your relationship as a friend. Totally. Yeah.
I think, I honestly wouldn't advise anything too different outside of that, because the goal here is to establish boundaries, because like Alex said, you've already expressed how learning more about their situation with these unhealthy relationships makes you feel and what your concerns are. So now you want to set boundaries with this person. And I agree. I think that it can come from a place of like, I love you a lot. I care about you a lot. And as your friend, it hurts me to see you engage in these cycles. So I'm here for you. I'm never not going to be here for you with like what's going on in your life. However, I don't think that I can continue to listen to what's going on as things are with this relationship. Like, that's really, really hard for me as your friend. So I'm going to ask you to keep that information really minimal when we connect. Mm-hmm. But again, if you choose to separate from this person, or you want to look at your relationship with this stuff differently, I'm here for you, or I will support you in whatever access to support you feel like would be a good fit for those needs.
Yeah.
But honestly, it just hurts me too much.
Totally. And I want to really hit this home too. This doesn't make you a shitty friend
for
having to set this boundary. This is not a you thing. It has nothing to do with you. This emotional dumping is a coping mechanism for people who usually are in this dynamic. And she's absolutely right. This is emotional addiction to this cycle that she's in.
Totally.
So until she's ready to like put on her big girl pants and learn how to regulate and learn how to get out of this cycle, it's going to keep happening, which means the emotional dumping is going to keep happening. And it's very draining for the person constantly listening. So you are not being a shitty friend at all. Cause I feel like that's where a lot of the fear around setting boundaries, like, oh my God, does that make me a bad friend if I don't want to listen to her complain about this boy anymore? No. You are not going to be a great friend to her, and you'll actually end up resenting the friendship if you don't set the boundary. So it's in your best interest to do that. So I just wanted to say that.
I would be careful not to get into, like, the reason why these boundaries are important is you want to be careful not to get into this like challenging debate with your friend to be like, how does this cycle with this person or all of these people serve you? Like, what does that do for you?
Yeah.
What are you trying to get out of it? That can be like, while that might feel like you help them get to a root of an issue, it is not the element that you want to add into your friendship, your dynamic. So set the boundaries, give them as much information as it feels is necessary to let them know why the boundary exists. Let them know what you are supportive for, like what you can still be there for. Let them know how it makes you feel. Let them know that this hurts you to watch and that you care about them.
The end.
The end.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for this week. If you're not following us yet on Instagram or TikTok, please do. Our handle is at Ditch the Script Pod. And if you have a question that you would like us to answer, visit our website, ditchthescriptpod.com, and submit your question. We'll answer it and shoot you an email when it's published in the episode.
That's right.
And as always, if you enjoyed this, screenshot it, share it to the gram, let us know you're listening. We love to see it. And leave a rating and review. That's it. We love you.
We love you so much. Bye.
Until next time, stay
Sayonara.
classy.